Hey book lovers, Victoria here and you're watching My Books Me. Today I'm back with another wrap up. I have no idea what books these are. I didn't bother looking, but it'll be in the title what books I'm up to. I actually ended up rereading 2 books recently, so they're included in this. So let's just go. So the first book I read is Boys South of the Mason-Dixon by Abby Glines. This is the first book in the South of the Mason-Dixon series, and this series will be following, I think from what I can gather from what I've heard, but the 5 Sutton brothers. You guys know how much I love Abby's books. I read this as soon as it was downloaded onto my iPad. I think I was finished by like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. As I said, you guys know how much I love Abby's books. This was no exception. I loved this one so much. We follow Dixie Monroe, who has grown up next to the Sutton boys all her life, and she's had like the biggest crush on Asher Sutton, and he's a couple of years older than her, and they end up starting to go out when she turns 15, and they're together for a while, and he suddenly breaks up with her, sort of no explanation as to why, and he ends up going off to college because I think it was his final year at high school. She's absolutely heartbroken because, as I said, there's no reason why. He gives no explanation as to why they have to end things, so she's heartbroken. She ends up then going out with his younger brother Steele, who is the same age as her, and they've been going out for like a year or 2, and Asher suddenly comes home one day because his mother has had like news from the doctors, and he's worried, and being like the eldest, he wants to be there for him, be there for her and his brothers, and he then finds out that Steele and Dixie are going out, and that actually Steele has proposed, although Dixie hasn't actually given him an answer yet. They've just finished high school. Yeah, they've just finished high school, and Dixie's working in town. And when she sees Asher again, she's kind of, all these feelings that she had for him come back, although she's still very much confused and pissed off at him for just leaving without explaining why. And Asher is firstly upset that Dixie's going out with Steele because he still loves her, but also because of this secret that he's been harboring for 3 years as to why they've broken up. When this secret is revealed and kind of cleared up, all 3, Asher, Steele and Dixie, are all very confused about where they stand, because it turns out that Asher and Dixie didn't have to break up, and so we follow this weird love triangle, and it's just, what I really loved about this is it alternated between the past and present, so we got to see Asher and Dixie's relationship develop, like the 3 years prior, and then the fallout, and then we get caught up with what's happening in the present, and it's just so cute. It's very, very emotional, because you're in the past when you're developing their relationship, and it's all really good, and then you get to the future, and like shit's getting real, and it's just very upsetting. The end of the book was also very, I'm not going to say confronting, but again, the end of it was very emotional. Some stuff happened, and I didn't know what Abby was going to do with these characters, but I really, really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the next book. As I said, it's following the Sutton boys. There's 5 of them, so I'm assuming there's going to be 5 books in this series, and I'm very, very excited. There's some really cool, there's some really fun things in here with the other brothers as well, which I can't wait to read about. But if you guys love new adult contemporary romance and have been listening to anything I've said about Abby's work, then you should definitely go read it. The next book is Royally Screwed by Emma Chase, and this one was really fun. We follow Nicholas, who is the prince and next in line to the throne of Wesico, I'm not even sure how to say it. And his grandmother, who is the queen, has said, look, you have until the end of summer to find a wife and make the announcement, because Wesco is kind of going through some stuff, and she wants a royal wedding to kind of lift spirits and things like that. And Nicholas is so annoyed at that because he's been happy living his life, having some fun, and because his grandmother has always said like she wants what his parents had, which was you know, very much falling in love and doing it that way rather than just like picking someone to marry. So Nicholas goes off to New York to find his younger brother because he's kind of been off the rails a little bit. While there, he arrives at this bakery, this pie shop, in the evening. He's had a couple of drinks. It's very late, hence why he's out, because the streets are pretty empty. Actually, it's during a snowstorm. And he's a little bit drunk, and he offers to buy the owner of this pie shop, I can't remember her name, that's really bad, for $10,000. And she first is like thinking about it, like just buy her for the night. She's first thinking about it because they're flat broke. They're about to lose the bakery, which is her mother's legacy, and her mother had died. But she says no and ends up throwing a pie in his face because she has no idea that he is a prince. He comes back the next day, apologizes and asks her out. And it's only then does she realize who he is, and they embark on this summer romance. They both know that at the end of the summer he is going back home and he is announcing that he is getting married to someone from Wesco. But even though they know that there's a time frame on it, they can't help but fall in love with one another. And so he ends up taking her back to Wesco just to stay for the remainder of summer because he's been asked by his grandmother to return home early. And so he just takes the leap of faith and is like, come on, come live with me for like the next couple of weeks or the next month or so, I'm not even quite sure how long it was, and we can continue being together until the end of summer. And shit gets real while they're over there. The queen doesn't like her because, you know, they're not meant to be together. And then some really big stuff happens that causes Nicholas to just like cut her off, and she can't explain anything, and it's really emotional, but it's really beautiful. It's so good. It's the first book in a trilogy. The next book follows his brother, which I'm really excited about, because stuff happens at the end, and it's just, it was really, really good. Again, if you like new adult contemporary romances, you're gonna really like this one, and I just really, really enjoyed it. Next book is A Girl in Between by Anna Daniels. This is an Australian adult novel. It was so fun. I was kindly sent a copy of this for review from Alan and Unwin. I participated in their blog tour. I will link below to the review of this one. But this is such a really, really fun book. We follow Lucy? Yeah, we follow Lucy, who is between sort of everything in her life. She's between homes, between jobs, between relationships, between figuring out what she wants to do with her life. She's kind of at a dead end. She doesn't really know what she wants to do next. Her parents are really worried about her because she's literally flat broke, and they're just very worried that she's kind of like sort of not really ruining her life, but that she's kind of not sure where to go. She's had sort of really crappy relationships, and it's just really good, and we just follow her trying to, we just follow her at the crossroads of her life trying to figure out what's next for her. She has all these amazing experiences. She goes to Japan, I think it was, yeah. She ends up going to London for a while. And it's just really, really good. I highly recommend it. It's just a really fun, laugh out loud novel. If you want to know more about it, check out my review. And I ended up rereading two books. The first one is Because of Him by Jessica Rowe. This one was I just really wanted to reread it because I started rewatching Pretty Little Liars, and the elements of the start of the series is very reminiscent of this book, so I just really wanted to reread it. It's still as good as the first time I read it. I also ended up listening to the audiobook of Grey by E.L. James. And finally, I read Note to Self by Connor Friend. I have a full review up on my blog, but this was so beautiful. I ended up listening to the last half of this on audiobook because Connor narrates the audiobook, so I just really wanted to see what that was like. But this was really good. It was emotional, it was moving, it was motivational, it was inspiring. It's very deep at times. Connor talks about, this mainly pretty much starts after his major breakup from his first major relationship, and if you're a fan of Connor, you'll probably guess who that is. There is kind of like, it's kind of known who this person is, even though Connor has never mentioned it, but you know what I mean. If you're a fan of Connor, you'll know. So it starts with the breakup of this and sort of how Connor had never experienced such thing, because he talks about how he never thought he would find love that people talk about, especially because he's gay, and so growing up he never really just imagined himself in this relationship where he was actually in love, and then he found that, and then it was all taken away from him. And so we start off about that and his breakup and like the heartbreaking experiences. He also talks about dealing with depression, and a lot of other things in his life that have just happened in the past 2 years, really. And this was such a beautiful book. It's very deep, very insightful. It's a lot of stuff that Connor hasn't actually publicly talked about in his videos. It's all very much his inner thinkings and inner thoughts. I really like the writing style. Connor has a very conversational tone, and it just feels like you can read it and you can feel like he's actually talking to you. You can feel like you can imagine him saying these things or thinking these things. It's really good. If you're a fan of Connor, I highly recommend it. If you're not a fan of Connor, I still think you can read it. I feel like you don't even need to know who Connor Franta is to be able to read this book and enjoy it and take something away from it. There's a lot of really beautiful messages in here. Connor is someone who he is always like sharing these different messages that people need to know and need to remember and to help people, and I feel like this book is filled with it. I think he did a fantastic job and highly, 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 highly recommend it. You know what, I've just realised I haven't given star ratings to any of these books. So Boys, South of the Mason-Dixon, I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. Royally Screwed, I think I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars too. I haven't actually written a review for that one yet. Girl in Between, I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. Because of Him is 4 out of 5 stars. Grey is 4 out of 5 stars. And Note to Self is 5 out of 5 stars. So it's been a while since I filmed a review, so I forgot I had to do the star ratings. In the description I'm going to link below to some of the reviews I've written for these books, so you can go check them out. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and your thoughts on them, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye!